from Beirut, Lebanon. This is the episode number 200 of this show. For 200 consecutive episodes, week after week, we brought you news, ground reports from the most volatile region in the world: Syria, Lebanon, the Emirates, Turkey, and much more. And we will continue to bring you unprecedented reporting from this area. For this week, we start from the country I'm currently standing in. Lebanon's Hezbollah was attacked in an unprecedented manner when thousands of pagers blasted at once and talkie-walkies as well. We will report about this and then go to Tehran, where a fresh round of American sanctions is in sight. All this is lined up for today's episode, but first, as usual, let's take a look at the headlines. Israel strikes Lebanon's densely populated area of southern suburb of Beirut. Ambulances are rushing in Lebanon's Al Jamous street. IDF says it targeted a Hezbollah leader in the area. Amid the ongoing ceasefire talks in Gaza, the United Arab Emirates says it is not prepared to support a post-war plan for Gaza without the establishment of a Palestinian state. Our top focus for today is my home, my country, Lebanon. Dozens of civilians were injured, many dead. Thousands of injuries were recorded in Lebanon when a lethal, deadly attack hit the pagers and then the next day the talkie-walkies of Hezbollah members while in the daytime in the streets with bystanders and some children injured. The next report tells you in detail about this escalation between Israel and Lebanon during this war. Take a look.
Since October 7th last year, Hezbollah and the Israeli forces have traded fire daily. But this week, the escalation reached a new high. Over 2 days, Lebanon experienced one of the biggest attacks of the conflict. On Tuesday, several pagers used by Hezbollah members exploded at the same time. Within few minutes, hospitals were flooded with patients. 12 people were dead and nearly 3,000 people injured. One of the youngest victims was a 9-year-old named Fatima Abdullah.
We saw young victims and we saw very old victims. And all just had the same type of wounds. They had puncture wounds on their faces. They had amputated limbs. They had open abdomens, intestines out, bowels out. Unfortunately, there were wounds that you couldn't explain.
Hezbollah held Israel responsible for the explosions. Israeli media reported that the Israeli Prime Minister approved the pager blasts. The attack came after Israel announced its expansion of war along its border with Lebanon with a new war goal. On Wednesday, Lebanon faced another lethal blow. There was a second wave of device explosions in the country. This time, it targeted walkie-talkies and even mobile phones. Firefighters arrived at mobile phone shops in Sidon after handheld radios used by the Hezbollah members detonated. At least 20 people were killed and 400 civilians injured in Wednesday's attacks. The blasts triggered by detonations in handheld radios and other devices have heightened anxiety about potential new threats.
People are afraid to speak because they do not know what's really happening in this country. This is something that has never happened before in the world. We did not expect it, and we don't know of any place that has faced a similar attack.
Israel's ally, United States, was quick to disassociate itself from the device explosions.
So with regard to Lebanon, the United States did not know about, nor was it involved in these incidents, and we're still gathering the information and gathering the facts.
After 2 days of continuous targeted attacks in Lebanon, Hezbollah Chief Hassan Nasrallah said the blasts are a declaration of war. He vowed that displaced Israelis would not be able to return to the north.
I say to Netanyahu, to Gallant, to the enemy army and entity, you will not be able to return the residents of the north to the north. You will not be able to the occupiers and settlers to the north.
During Nasrallah's speech, Hezbollah struck at least 4 times in northern Israel. 2 Israeli soldiers were killed in a strike early in the day. Israeli warplanes flew low over Beirut while Nasrallah spoke and broke the sound barrier. WHO says the coordinated device blasts have impacted Lebanon's healthcare system. Questions and speculation have swirled over where the devices came from and how they were supplied to Hezbollah group. An initial probe by Lebanese authorities found that handheld devices that exploded were booby-trapped before they entered the country. The president and founder of a Taiwanese pager company linked to the detonation of thousands of pagers targeting Hezbollah was questioned by the prosecutors. Meanwhile, world leaders gathered at the UN as the crisis grows by the hour. US says a diplomatic solution between the Hezbollah and Israeli forces is possible, but neither Hezbollah nor the IDF seem to back down from trading fire, at least not till the war in Gaza ends.
While the Israelis escalate their attacks on Lebanon and open a war front at the Lebanese borders, they continue to bomb Gaza. They continue their operations in the West Bank. Meanwhile, the United Nations voted against the Israeli occupation and new settlements in Palestinian territories. But now we discuss, after all that, where is the ceasefire deal? Is there a deal in sight for Gaza? Let's take a look.
Those who claim that peace is possible in our region without a just resolution for the question of Palestine are the ones who are not being realistic.
In a historic vote, the United Nations General Assembly has widely supported a Palestinian resolution. It called on Israel to end its unlawful presence in Gaza and the West Bank within a year.
Begin the voting process.
The vote in the 193-member world body was 124 to 14, with 43 abstentions.
Is adopted.
Those in the opposition was Israel's closest ally, the United States. While not legally binding, the extent of support for the resolution reflects world opinion. The Israeli government condemned the vote as a shameful resolution and one that backs the Palestinian Authority's diplomatic terrorism.
Next, let me share Israel's view on the Palestinian-led resolution in the United Nations General Assembly just yesterday. First things first, it harms any chance for peace, what we want most of all, the very essence of Israel. It's disconnected from reality and from the situation on the ground.
Amid the increasing violence in the West Bank, the resolution comes just ahead of the first anniversary of Israel's war against Hamas in Gaza. Efforts to broker a ceasefire deal in Gaza are, however, pressing ahead, even as the attacks in Lebanon have further stirred tensions in the volatile region. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met fellow mediators on Wednesday in Egypt.
France and the United States are united in calling for restraint and urging de-escalation when it comes to the Middle East in general and when it comes to Lebanon in particular. We continue to work to get a ceasefire for Gaza over the finish line. And as we discussed with some of you just a day ago in Egypt, we believe that remains both possible and necessary.
Blinken also had meetings with Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and Egyptian Foreign Minister Badr Abdelati. He said the most dire need in the troubled ceasefire negotiations was for both sides to show they actually wanted a deal. On the battleground, the Israeli forces are pounding Gaza and the occupied West Bank. In the latest raids in the occupied West Bank, Israeli forces surrounded Palestinian houses and schools in Qabatia city. 2 bodies lay on a rooftop as clouds of smoke rose while an Israeli bulldozer demolished a building.
The West is accusing Iran of transferring missiles to Russia. The US and Europe has imposed new fresh round of sanctions on Iran. Now, Iran says that the West should impose similar sanctions and give similar treatment to the Israeli administration. President Masoud Pezeshkian said, "We are open to talks, but will not be responding to intimidation." We tell you more.
The war in Gaza and its expansion on the Israeli border with Lebanon are escalating tensions between Iran and other nations, including the West. In the latest flurry of sanctions, US and 3 European nations have imposed new restrictions on Iran's aviation sector. Iran says it is open to talks with the United States, but it will not cave into pressure and threats.
We are not hostile towards the US. We were not the ones who built a military base around America. We did not sanction them. They sanctioned us. They set up a military base around us and they threaten us. They should end their hostility towards us by showing their goodwill in practice. We are brothers with them as well. We have no problem.
The West has accused Iran of supplying its weapons to Russia and its allies in West Asia. Tehran says it will not give up on its missile program. The Islamic Republic states it has to deter Israeli forces who drop bombs on Gaza every day. Iranian and European officials are meeting at the UN General Assembly in New York next week in a test of whether the 2 sides can find a path back to diplomacy over Iran's nuclear program. In his first trip to the West since his election in July, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian will land on American soil 6 weeks before the November 5 US presidential election. That could put former President Donald Trump, a staunch opponent of compromise with Iran, back in the office. One would say that India and Iran typically have a strong relationship. The nations signed a 10-year contract to develop and operate the Iranian port of Chabahar. India has been developing the port in Chabahar on Iran's southeastern coast along the Gulf of Oman as a way to transport goods to Iran, Afghanistan, and Central Asian countries. However, Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has been critical of the Asian nation over the status of India's Muslim minority. On Monday, India denounced comments made by Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei on the treatment of Muslims in the South Asian country, calling his remarks misinformed and unacceptable. Khamenei's comments were part of a message posted on X, formerly Twitter, calling for solidarity among Muslims around the world on the occasion of Prophet Muhammad's birth anniversary.
Still in Iran, where the Mahsa Amini story hits its 2nd year anniversary, women protested against hijab. Now, after 2 years, the president of Iran says that they will not allow the morality police to harass women. In the next report, we take a look at present-day Iran.
Streets in Iranian cities are getting more accustomed to seeing women walking without hijabs. After the death of Mahsa Amini, women in Iran are ditching the headscarf rule. Amini was 22 when she was arrested, allegedly for not wearing the mandatory headscarf. A UN probe held Iran responsible for the brutal physical violence that led to Amini's death. The probe also found the Islamic nation employed unnecessary and disproportionate use of lethal force to put down the demonstrations that erupted after Amini's death. In the months-long security crackdown, over 500 people were killed, over 22,000 were detained. The country's new reformist president Masoud Pezeshkian campaigned on a promise to halt the harassment of women by the morality police. The president reiterated his statement on Amini's second death anniversary.
The morality police were not supposed to confront women. I will follow up so they don't bother them.
It remains to be seen if present-day Iran under the moderate president will remove its restrictions on the dress code. The country's ultimate authority remains the 85-year-old Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who in the past said unveiling is both religiously forbidden and politically forbidden. Disobedience comes at a risk in the Islamic Republic. The UN says the theocratic government is targeting private businesses where women are seen without headscarves. Surveillance cameras search for uncovered women in vehicles to fine and impound their cars. The government has even used aerial drones to monitor the 2024 Tehran International Book Fair and Kish Island for uncovered women. Yet some feel the election of Pezeshkian in July after a helicopter crash killed Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi in May is helping ease tensions over the hijab.
Now let's talk about the United Arab Emirates. The UAE said it won't be talking about the F-35 warplanes deal with America. It says that the current circumstances would not allow the UAE to buy US weaponry. On the other hand, the UAE continues to grow its trade with America's rival. What does that mean? We tell you more.
The United Arab Emirates has long sought the much advanced US's F-35 fighter jets. But with the recent tensions in West Asia, stringent US policies might have killed a potential multi-billion-dollar deal between the two nations. The Emirates says it does not wish to resume negotiations with the United States over the stealth fighter jets. A Reuters report is suggesting that the EU might reconsider negotiations if Donald Trump were to win a second term. But with less than 2 months for the US presidential election, the UAE says it is firmly committed to its position, irrespective of the election's outcome. The F-35 is known for its advanced sensor suite and sophisticated electronic warfare capabilities. It would mark a significant acquisition for the UAE, making it the second West Asian nation to operate these jets after Israel. Former President Donald Trump has initially authorized the $23 billion deal featuring MQ-9 Reaper drones and munitions after the UAE's normalized relations with Israel in 2020. The move positioned the UAE as the most prominent Arab state to establish diplomatic relations with Israel in 30 years. But in 2021, UAE said it was suspending talks on finalizing the deal after the Biden administration sought to impose new restrictions. Washington cited concerns about the UAE's use of China's Huawei 5G technology and the risk it posed to providing Beijing access to sensitive U.S. defense information. The UAE already operates the U.S. F-16 and French-made Mirage 2009S fighter jets, but it has also purchased Chinese light attack jets. In July, the UAE and China conducted joint military drills in China's Xinjiang province. The Emirates' growing ties with China has also raised eyebrows in the West. On Thursday, UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan met with China's Premier Li Qiang. Both leaders pledged to enhance the comprehensive strategic partnership between their countries. China, an oil producer itself, has long imported crude from West Asia, where it has sought to expand its influence in recent years. Beijing has pointed to the West Asian region as a prime participant in its Belt and Road Infrastructure Initiative. The initiative is seen as the central pillar of leader Xi Jinping's bid to expand Chinese influence. Last year, the UAE set up the world's largest single-site solar power plant as a flagship project under Beijing's Belt and Road Initiative.
Still in the United Arab Emirates, and now we're talking about Sheikha Mahra. UAE's Prime Minister's daughter took the world by storm when she divorced her husband via an Instagram post. And now, once again, she's taking the world by storm for her new perfume line named Divorce. Take a look.
The daughter of UAE's Prime Minister, Sheikha Mahra, broke the internet when she publicly divorced her then-husband. In a pivotal moment, the Dubai princess broke an Islamic practice, which only allows a man to state his intention and divorce his partner. Princess Mahra took to her Instagram and pointed toward Sheikh Mana Al Maktoum's adultery in her post. The princess, whose baby daughter was born in May, deleted all pictures of her husband from her Instagram account. Since then, the princess has put her business shades on and is on campaign mode with a new perfume named Divorce. The 30-year-old princess shared a teaser of the perfume on Instagram. The promo showed a black bottle engraved with the word divorce. The accompanying video, filled with imagery of broken glass and a black panther, further emphasized the theme of separation. The scent of divorce, what perfumers call its notes, has not yet been revealed. Some have suggested it smells like freedom.
That's all we have for you on this episode of the West Asia Post. I will see you next week with a brand new lineup, bringing you always the most recent updates, news, and ground reports from the world's most volatile region. I am your host, Ghadi Francis, signing off from Beirut, Lebanon. For more global news, keep on watching WION World is One.
India's Global Voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is One.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called UNGA Wellness Center. The UNGA Wellness Center provides 500,000 square feet of natural methods to manage diabetes, hypertension, chronic pain, obesity, depression, anxiety, and other conditions. We use the traditions of centuries-old natural science from India, yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy in personalized programs that help you take charge of your own health. A minimum 5-day stay is recommended for best results. Book now at yo1.com.
Does it not taste good? Let me try it.
No.
As friends turns 30, we tell you how the show is a pop culture phenomenon. Get a sneak peek into unique celebrity collections. And know the unknown about Jab We Met star Kareena Kapoor Khan. All this and much more with me, Isha Hanspal, at these times only on WION E-Club.
Prime Minister Modi heads to the US. A summit meet of the Quad, the last of Joe Biden's term, top of the agenda. Much-awaited Modi address at Summit of the Future. An interaction with the Indian-American diaspora. And key bilaterals in the offing. It's a landmark visit as the US counts down to a new president. Complete coverage on WION.
Senegal to vote in snap parliamentary elections in mid-November after President Bassirou Diomaye Faye dissolved the opposition-dominated chamber, a move he's banking on to implement his policy agenda. 3 Americans are among 37 people sentenced to death in the Democratic Republic of Congo over what the army says was a coup attempt. A military court handed the sentences to 37 out of 51 defendants, including a Belgian, Briton, and Canadian, all naturalized Congolese. And a vibrant artwork and